Hey, I'm Jamey Ice, Fort Worth native, musician turned entrepreneur, and someone who loves diving into the stories behind great brands. In each episode, we sit down with the leaders, dreamers, and builders who are shaping our community, pulling back the curtain on their journey and the real lessons and tactics that got them to where they are today. No fluff, no highlight reels, just real conversations with remarkable people about what it takes to build something that truly matters. I'm your host, and this is Stories with Soul. All right, welcome to Stories with Soul. Today, I'm excited to welcome Lizzy Bentley. Glad you're here. Growing up in Amarillo, surrounded by Western culture, Lizzy had a vision to bring Texas tradition into something new. After graduating from SMU and working in finance, which I want to hear about, because that's a giant leap from what you're doing now, or maybe it's not, she did what entrepreneurs do, and she scratched that itch and took a leap. In 2015, she launched City Boots, bringing handcrafted Western style to a modern audience. What she built is incredible, taking something timeless and breathing new life into it. Lizzy, I'm pumped you're here. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
So let's kick it off. So first of all, I've wanted to connect for a while.
I know.
We emailed a while back.
Yes, last year.
Yeah,
and I missed the deadline. That was on me. But this year I was like reaching out to you, like I want to make it this year.
Yeah, but I love your boots. You're like my wife's favorite boots. She's got these big old red ones. My daughters have City Boots, and it's been fun seeing what you do. So I'm excited. I've wanted to hear the story for a while, and I feel like we have mutual friends, but we
many. Yeah,
but we didn't officially meet until
over at
the Stockyard Supply
Party.
Yeah, so
it feels like I know you just because of the mutual friends and
inadvertently social media.
Yeah, social media.
Well, let's so give me just like the backstory. Lizzy, growing up in Amarillo.
Grew up in Amarillo, Texas.
Amarillo proper, like in the city of Amarillo?
In the city.
Okay.
My parents are both from smaller towns. So my dad grew up kind of in the farming world in Dalhart, Texas, also in the Panhandle. A lot of people drive through there on the way to the mountains.
Yes, many times.
And then my mom grew up more West Texas in San Angelo, like total cowboy country. And they both transplanted to Amarillo and raised their family there. I'm the oldest of three siblings and
the oldest kid.
Oldest kid.
Okay.
I'm a classic oldest.
Yeah, you are.
Too. Yes. And just grew up in Amarillo, the best place to grow up.
Were they doing farming stuff still?
So no, my dad ended up in the oil and gas business.
Okay.
And my mom, she was an accountant up until she had children. And they got married a little later in life, so she had a whole career as an accountant. And so just grew up there. Amarillo is like the best place to grow up.
Is it?
Yes.
Wait, why?
Just like the perfect sized town, 200,000 people, plenty to see and do. You're far from anything. You know, you're 6 hours from Dallas, 6 hours from Denver.
Yeah.
You're close to the mountains. I know you guys do Santa Fe.
We drive through Amarillo.
Yeah.
I stay in Amarillo all the time.
Oh, nice. Well, we got to coordinate.
Yeah.
Next time.
I have had my hair blown in Amarillo many times.
It will blow your hair out there for sure.
And so were you like an entrepreneurial kid or a fashion-oriented kid?
Yes, I was. I was always entrepreneurial.
Okay.
So we had this thing called Biz for Kids at the mall in town.
What is
I also think my mom and dad like promoted it. But I remember wanting to start a dog walking business, babysitting. We had a Biz for Kids, and every year I'd do it. And so one year I sold.
It's a competition, or what is it?
Yeah, and one year, so you would sign up, create a business, go sell at the mall. They had tables set up for each kid's business.
No way.
And so one year I sold Orange Julius. One year I had tie-dye T-shirts.
Really?
We would make the product, sell it. You know, my mom was an accountant, so she would make sure we paid her back for all the supplies, and it was like a.
And were you doing it with your siblings or like by yourself?
I don't remember if my siblings.
I wish my kids had that.
What a cool thing. It's such a cool thing, and I have vivid memories of that. Like I think that's always called me. I've always been
is making something and selling it.
Yes, and branding in general.
Okay.
So the other piece of that is I played volleyball. That was my sport growing up, but I was not good at all. But I was always the one who was like, what are we going to name the team? What colors are we going to choose for the team? I was like the branding person on the team.
Which is also colors, fashion-y.
It is fashion, yes. What socks are we going to get? What's our cheers going to be? You know, the whole thing.
So kind of entrepreneurial as a kid, started some
Yes.
little side businesses, also
Yes.
branded your teams.
Branded my teams.
And then you went to SMU.
Then I went to college, yes. I went to college at SMU.
How'd you wind up at SMU?
So I applied all over the nation. I always wanted to get out and see the world. That was something that was also something that I wanted. But when I started visiting, I remember my dad took me to NYU in New York City. When I started visiting the schools, I was like, okay, wait, maybe I'm not ready to make this big of a step. But when I visited SMU, what I liked about it was very out of state.
Feeling.
Yes. And Dallas is.
Oh, out of state meaning like the people?
The people were out
Okay.
of state. Also, totally different environment than what I grew up in. So it was a big change from Amarillo, which I was looking for something different. And I just loved it there. It's a beautiful campus, a lot of variety of people from where they're from, which was so cool. And still love that piece of it because I have friends all over. And that's really where City Boots kind of, the concept of it began because I would wear my boots around campus. And the girls were from everywhere and they wanted boots, but there was nowhere to tell them to go buy boots.
Oh, really?
There really wasn't.
And were you at the time wearing like brown boots, or were you wearing
I was
like crazy
wearing
Lizzy
fun,
City?
crazy boots,
Okay.
like even more crazy than I wear now. But it was kind of my thing. It was my personal brand.
You got there and kind of like, this is gonna be my.
I
thing,
leaned
wear
in
boots.
for sure.
Yeah.
And started collecting, and I would wear boots, but I was really wearing a lot of vintage boots. And at the time there were not any good options for an elevated women's fashion cowboy boot, but I was also really particular about it being authentically constructed because of where I'm from.
Yeah.
So I didn't want like the plastic fashion boots. I wanted a real cowboy boot.
Not something kind of cheapo.
And it didn't have to be expensive, but it could, just the construction in general. I wanted something that was authentic, which is something that I can do in City Boots today. That's a big part
So
of.
people are asking you, where do you get your boots? Where do I get boots?
Yeah.
Help me buy boots.
So I would find them boots on Etsy. I would take them to stores. And this was also the beginning of e-commerce.
Okay.
So this was when Warby Parker was beginning. It was when direct to consumer was becoming a thing. And at the time there were no direct to consumer cowboy boots. Now there's, a handful, but or more than that.
Direct to consumer meaning like Tacovas, where you can just buy them online.
Correct.
You had to go into a store. Normally it was like a Western wear store.
Yes, you'd go into a Western wear store and buy cowboy boots.
Yeah. What was the Cowboy Cool?
Cowboy Cool, yes,
They're
in
like super
West Village.
They're like had old gringo.
I loved that store.
Uh-huh.
I don't know if it's still there, but that was a cool store. That was in West Village.
So you're buying them on like Etsy and
Vintage.
And so did you say I want to start a boot
No,
company?
not at that point. So
But it became part of like
it became
the
part
Lizzy
of like my
demeanor.
personality kind of, and my fashion. And to me, the thing I always loved about cowboy boots was it added a statement to your outfit.
Yeah, that's like unapologetically Texan
Yes.
with a little pizzazz.
Yes. And they're so comfortable. You can wear them all day. So there's like this convenience factor combined with this factor of giving you a look that's why I liked it.
And this is like before Yellowstone. Before that was like
Yeah, way before. This
The-
is like 2010.
trendy thing.
So like 15 years ago. Just crazy to say, but yeah.
And you studied finance.
And so I studied finance.
Why did you study finance? Were you
I
into
loved
math?
it. I loved it. I
Because
don't
your
know.
mom's an accountant.
I know. It just like, It was the one class that I took. I knew I wanted to do business.
Stories with Soul is brought to you by my company, 6F Storytelling, where we help entrepreneurs and small businesses grow through the power of storytelling. If you're stuck watching competitors get all the attention, or you're tired of wasting money on random marketing tactics that don't work, you're not alone. As an entrepreneur who's built multiple businesses, I know firsthand how frustrating it can be to have a great product or have a great service, but struggle to get the attention you deserve. Because here's the truth. Being good at what you do isn't enough anymore. You need a way to stand out and connect with your ideal customers. That's why we created the Storytelling Pathway, a proven framework for story-driven marketing that turns solid businesses into brands people can't stop talking about. So whether you're just starting out or if you're ready to scale, we can help you craft and share your unique story in a way that attracts the right customers and drives real growth. So if you're ready to stand out, visit 6avstorytelling.com today. I would love to chat with you.
It was the one class that I took that it just like clicked with the way that my brain worked. And I also kind of honestly did the math on what my lifestyle was costing at the time. And I knew very clearly that once college was over, my parents were done.
Okay.
And I was like, I need to get a good paying job.
I need to make some money.
Yeah. And that's where the good paying jobs were in business. So I loved finance. I also was very involved in the oil and gas world at SMU. I was the president of the oil and gas club.
Wait, why were you president of the oil and gas?
I think
your dad?
I think I grew up, he never pushed me into that.
Yeah.
I just genuinely.
What did you do with the oil and gas club in
I
college?
thought I was going to be a woman wildcatter.
Okay.
That's what I wanted to do when I was in college.
And so finance was a means to an end.
Yes.
For going and starting your own oil business of some sort.
Yes. Which is now I just cannot imagine.
That's so wild.
But it's fun. I was all in on it.
And you were president of so what? Okay, just walk me through because this is a foreign idea to me.
Yes.
I'm 20 years old and I'm in the oil and gas club. Mm-hmm. What do you do with that?
You go
You're
visit.
we should drill here.
No, so we would organize trips for the club to go visit big oil and gas companies or small oil and gas companies and learn. It's an excellent career path. And so it was really just career development.
Okay.
Organizing that for people.
That is
so even then I was branding, but I loved it. And that's where I started my career.
That's something most people would not know. Lizzy was the president of her college oil.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. But yeah, it was fun. I loved it. I love the people in the oil and gas business. You're dealing with smart, ambitious, salt of the earth people who are entrepreneurial, really, most of the time.
My parents are both geologists.
Okay.
So they were, I grew up around that.
Yeah, then you get it.
In that world. And have you watched Landman?
So I'm not all the way caught up, but I've watched a couple episodes.
Yeah.
It's interesting.
I've watched a couple episodes. It's pretty wild.
It's good. It's good. It's pretty,
I love the Texas-y culture-y.
The Texas, I love that part of it too. Yeah. My parents actually met in Midland.
Okay.
So there's history there too.
So studying finance, rocking boots. I'm going to go do oil and gas.
Yep.
And be an oil wildcatter.
Yeah.
In boots. And then walk me through.
So from there, I moved to Houston. I got a job at Halliburton.
Okay.
And it was a great job. It was, I learned so much in that job that I still apply today. It was an M&A group at Halliburton. And so we were doing valuation. We were buying and selling companies.
Other oil companies.
Yes.
That's cool.
Inside or for ourselves and then spinning things off. And it was just such a cool first way to start my career. That being said, I did not love sitting at a cubicle all day. And that's where the idea for City Boots came to be, because I thought I can't do this. I had an excellent job with great team, but I still was like, I can't do this sitting in the cubicle.
Just getting kind of
corporate was not for me.
Okay.
And so I started City Boots as a widget, really. And I had, meaning like, I wanted to start a business, and I needed to be taking action in order to be moving my life forward, because I was unhappy in that corporate atmosphere. And I knew a lot about cowboy boots because I was collecting them and had 50 pairs. And
You had 50
I had
pairs.
become, the expert.
50 pairs is so many pairs.
It's so many. Well, you don't want to know how many I have now.
How many boots do you have now?
So when I started City Boots, I probably had 50 pairs, and I probably have 120 now.
No way.
Yeah.
You could wear them every day.
Yeah.
You have to have a big closet, and boots are.
I have a tiny house, and the boots are all over the house. Like I'll have you guys over, and the boots literally line my living room.
Really?
Yeah.
That's too funny.
It's fun. It's really fun. I had my Bible study over yesterday for Christmas tea, and I forget because it's just my life. But all the women were like, "Oh my gosh, this is a lot of cowboy boots. Tell us the stories."
So you got 50 pairs of boots. You're sitting in Houston. You're like,
yeah, I'm like,
I got to get out of here.
yeah. And so let's start. I just started talking about it to people. I started an Instagram. It went through a few different names. It was like Black Sheep Boots was like the first name.
Okay.
Horrible name, but I liked the idea of it. And then Lemon Boots was the second name, which also horrible name. And then City Boots came to be.
And was it just kind of showing this is my collection? These are.
Yeah,
Were you,
my
like, selling them
Instagram
too?
was started out as like highlighting. I didn't have any more room for boots in my closet, so my Instagram started out as a highlighting of pairs that I would find that I wanted to purchase but didn't have room for.
Okay.
And celebrating the artisanship that goes into boots. I started collecting from all different makers. And so there's so many amazing mom and pop boot makers in Texas that have been around for years and years, and famous hand makers of boots. And so I would try and find vintage pieces from all of those makers. And so that's how the Instagram started. And then I don't really remember, but I knew I wanted to start a boot company. I knew there was a niche in the market for women. Nobody was doing women-only cowboy boots.
Okay.
Women were always an afterthought in the cowboy boot world. You have Old Gringo, so they were kind of one of the first.
But they're still pretty like men-oriented.
Yeah, and their style is just different than what I was wanting.
Yeah. I know what you mean by that.
So that's where I saw them. There was like an opportunity, and that's what I leaned into. And so I started calling manufacturers, sampling boots.
So you're saying out loud to your friends, I'm going to start a boot company.
Yeah.
I started this Instagram. People kind of know you as
that
boot influencer, so to speak. And so you're saying I'm going to make
cowboy boots.
I'm going to make cowboy boots.
Yes.
So real quick, I want to get into that. But you also said at Halliburton you learned some lessons that you still use today. Can you?
Really just like looking at cash flow, the finance side of things. Also
Like evaluating a business.
Evaluating my own business. I don't like have plans to sell it, but I'd like to set it up in a way that makes it a valuable asset. Like I love what I do, but I also, part of what I do and love is this idea of building an asset. So that's part of it.
I think that's kind of, and maybe me saying this is like stereotyping unfairly, but I love that you kind of had this finance background, buying and selling business background, and like approached it from a very, financial asset. How do I set that?
Yes. And the other piece was like capital returns.
Okay.
So a big thing that I learned about in my first job was this idea of capital returns. So,
okay, would you explain that to me?
So capital returns, basically you have $10,000 in cash. What are you going to do with that cash in order to create new cash? So that was a big focus of my business early on. For 5 years, the only thing I did with my cash was pay for gas and invest in more inventory. And that was how I kind of got it off the ground.
So you start putting together business models, I'm assuming.
Yeah. I love to build a discounted cash flow still to this day. It's not a good use of my time, but
okay, tell me what
discounted
that is.
cash flow is so funny.
I'm someone who's not
okay.
who's
So
not
discounted
finance
cash flow is what you use in the finance world to evaluate a business.
Okay.
So what you do is you forecast out the future cash flows of the business. Most of the time it's out 5 years. And then you put an in value on it based on a growth rate and based on a growth rate. So you say what it's bringing in today, what you think it's going to bring in over the next 5 years, and what you think it'll be worth in 5 years based on a certain trajectory. And then you take all of those cash flows and you discount them back at a capital return rate that makes sense to you. And that's how you're able to, that gives you the time value of money. And then that tells you what your business is worth.
I love that.
That's one way. There's multiple ways.
I need like people like you in my life, in my early days of starting
call me
businesses.
anytime. I mean, it's been...
If I knew how to do that.
It's been 10 years since I've been in that world, but I can connect you with people.
I love it. So you're calling manufacturers.
Yes, I'm calling manufacturers. I'm sampling boots.
Are you designing them? Like, do you have like drawings? Like, do you like mock them up?
Yeah, my first boot though was just like... My idea was a super simple cowboy boot. I didn't want something crazy. I wanted like a basic black cowboy boot with a very simple, elegant design on it, but I didn't want it to be cheaply made. And I didn't want to wait a year for a custom version. Yeah. So I wanted the quality of the custom boots that you can go get.
Are you like drawing on a piece of paper? Are you like using a computer software or like?
No, just on a piece of paper. So I also was artistic growing up. Okay. I kind of missed that piece because it's not a part of me that I've ever nurtured. But I was into art and I took all the art classes and can draw. Okay.
So are you calling manufacturers and being like, I'm gonna email you this picture? Is that how it works? Like,
yeah.
So you said, I have a picture of a boot I want to make.
I found like people on Facebook.
Wait, okay.
So
how are you finding these manufacturers?
There's just, if you get on Facebook, there's so many little micro communities and there's boot making micro communities out there. And so I literally just started calling people and asking if they would do private label boots. That's kind of the words I would use.
Yeah.
And visiting factories. I would use my days off from my job and go visit factories.
Are a lot
El
of factories
Paso.
They're in El Paso or Mexico, right?
El Paso or Mexico. And our boots are made in Mexico. And a lot of people don't realize, but the boots that they make in Mexico, they've been making boots there just as long as El Paso. There's a lot of artisanship that go there.
So you're flying to El Paso or
Leon, Mexico.
While you still have your job to make this one pair of boots.
Yes.
And were you like, I'm going to order 10 or 100 or like?
So at the time, I didn't really have a plan. So I launched the company on Facebook. I built my own website. I had an interest in that side of things too, the technology. So I knew I wanted to start a business. I loved the direct to consumer model. Instagram was becoming a thing. So you have this like free marketing channel where you can get your story out there. And then I loved cowboy boots, and it all just kind of came together into what is now City Boots. But the first thing I did was when I sampled a boot, I did a photo shoot over here in Fort Worth. I was living in Dallas at the time. And I put it on my Facebook, my Instagram, because I already had followers because I'd been posting vintage boots.
Yeah.
And I took pre-orders and I sold 6 pairs in a week.
Oh, before you even got them. That's cool.
So I did a pre-order first.
Hey, I'm interrupting this episode because I want to share something with you that I'm really excited about. One of my biggest missions in life is to make entrepreneurship easier than it was for me. After spending over a decade building multiple businesses, I've learned some hard lessons, often the expensive way. And here's the thing, I see so many talented entrepreneurs struggling with the exact same challenges that I faced. They've got great products, they've got great services, but they're stuck trying to figure out how to stand out and how to grow. They're wasting time and money on random marketing tactics, they're watching competitors get all the attention, and they're feeling overwhelmed about what to focus on next. That's exactly why my team and I just created 2 incredible free resources that I genuinely wish I had when I was starting out. The first is our storytelling marketing assessment. In just 5 minutes, it'll show you exactly where your marketing stands today and give you a clear roadmap of what to work on next. No more guessing, no more wasting time on strategies that don't work. And the second is our complete storytelling pathway framework. This is the exact system that we've used to help hundreds of businesses grow through the power of story. This isn't just a theory, it's a practical, proven framework that shows you step by step how to turn your business into a brand people can't stop talking about. I'm giving both of these away completely for free because I truly believe that when local businesses thrive, our whole community thrives. This isn't about making a quick buck. It's about sharing what works and helping other entrepreneurs succeed. You can get both resources right now at 6thAvestorytelling.com/free. I promise you these are absolute game changers. They're going to help you get clear on exactly what you need to do to grow your business and give you the roadmap to make it happen. Don't miss out on these. Head over to 6thAvestorytelling.com/free and grab them now. All right, back to our conversation.
And then that went okay. Like 6 in a week, I was like, wow, like, okay, cool. And that went okay, except that they came in late, which is the Cowboy boot world. Yeah. And they also came in like slightly different than what I had ordered.
Okay.
And it posted. So I was like, this pre-order isn't going to work. Like, we need to have the boots on hand.
Wait, and how did you choose which manufacturer to wind up going with?
So I didn't stay with that manufacturer.
Okay.
No.
Chose wrong the first time.
Yes. So I ended up going with a family factory in Mexico that was able to, I knew I didn't just want to sell 6 at a time. Like I wanted to really make a business out of it. And so they had a whole operation. It wasn't like a workshop.
Yeah.
I needed someone who had a big enough operation to produce and then also small enough that they would sell me. The first order I made, to answer your question, was 50 pairs of boots.
Okay. Which is expensive.
It is, yeah. So
I'm assuming.
Yeah, so, and we can talk about that. So this whole time that I'm working, I'm also saving money.
Okay.
So I was saving money knowing that I wanted to go out.
Except for when you're buying boots.
Well, I kind of had to stop that.
Okay, stop that.
I'm like, if I'm going to be making my own boots, I don't need these others. It's so sad. I have 50 pairs of beautiful handmade Cowboy boots that I never get to wear. But I want to do something special with those one day, like create like a little display or something. So yeah, you have to also realize that I'm 23 years old at the time, or 24. I was 25 actually 9 years ago today, the Friday before Christmas. I left my corporate job to do this full time.
Wow.
Yes.
Wait, and when you left, had you already sold more? So you make the website.
No, I hadn't.
Pre-order. Okay.
No.
So you said, I'm going to quit and go all in on this.
Yes.
And what did your parents say? They're like, we just spent all this money for you to go to SMU.
Yes. They were supportive because, so I had nothing to lose. I was 25. I think I was 25 at the time. The oil business was in a really bad place. Mm-hmm. It was not a good place to like be looking for a job in. Mm-hmm. And I had done, been in the working world for 2 or 3 years, which is such a hard transition, or it was for me. And I just needed a break, and I had it ready to go. So I just said, I'm going to do this. They were supportive. My dad's an entrepreneur, so
So they were supportive.
Yeah, and actually my mom gave me the seed money to start. $10,000.
Okay, so you started with 10 grand.
$10,000 and enough money to pay my rent for a year.
And I'm assuming
Cash.
that $10,000 gets eaten up pretty quick. When
I
you're
just
buying.
spent all on inventory.
Yeah, on your first design.
Yes, right? 4 styles.
Yeah, so you have 4 styles at this point.
4 styles.
And so I'm buying all these boots.
Buying all these boots.
You had a website. You had an Instagram following.
And I just did photo shoots. I posted them on Instagram, and people liked them.
People started buying them. Isn't that like the amazing,
the
like the power of having a following of some sort?
Yes.
Big or small, like when you invite people into your story and you're passionate about something like.
Yes. And that's how my first customers were from my Instagram that was posting vintage boots. That and my parents' friends.
So you ordered 4 styles. How many boots was that?
4 styles. I can't remember exactly, but I ordered probably a size run.
Okay.
Because that's the thing with shoes. You've got to order every size run.
Okay.
And so I came out with 4 styles. We had 4 styles forever, 2 or 3 years. Sold the same boots.
So you kept it simple for a while.
Yes. And that's a big part of, I think, why City Boots has been successful is that we created a brand identity with our product by sticking with it. You'll see we have had the same toe, heel, and height. We had the same toe, heel, and height for 4 or 5 years. I then branched into other heights, but I've had the same toe and heel for 9 years until this fall I launched my first snip toe boot.
Okay.
And that's been great too. Like our customers want something new as well. But we've created a brand identity in this look.
And so you sell them. Did it go well? Like, did you sell out all the sizes or?
I can't really remember. Honestly, I was so just happy to be doing my own thing and being on my own schedule that I didn't really know what was happening. I was just like,
this is fun.
Yeah. And I would do trunk shows and people liked it. It's always more fun when people like it. You know, like.
Yeah, so people were happy with the boot.
Yes.
And were you happy with them? With like, this is what I envisioned, this is what I've been wanting.
Yes, it was perfect.
They're better quality.
Yes.
They're cool.
It's the right price point. And from there, I just kept going.
And you were solo.
Yeah, so my mom was my partner. She didn't just give me $10,000.
Oh, so she's helping.
She's helping, and she's part owner.
Okay.
That was fun.
Is that still the case?
No, I bought her out about 4 years ago.
Okay.
Yes, which was really fun.
Did she make some money on it?
Yeah, she made some good money.
Cool.
So that was fun. But she I always joke, I mean, this isn't true at all, but I'm like, she stopped pulling her weight. I had to buy her out. So she's great. She still promotes the brand, but.
So you're designing, you're ordering, you're the one posting, you're probably running to the post office and shipping.
Oh yeah, I'm doing it all. Literally out of my apartment in Dallas, I had one of those apartments that you could rent a storage unit in the apartment down the hall, and I had this great 5x6 closet that I kept all the boots in, and then I would get shipments in, and our apartment had a concierge, and so the concierge would bring my shipments to the storage unit, and I don't know, those are good memories.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And were your designs again? You just are drawing these on a piece of paper. You don't have any formal
no pattern making.
CAD.
No.
I don't know that's what you use.
I do an iPad now.
Okay.
Because I like to erase and
that worked. I'm assuming you've learned a lot since then,
Oh my, are you kidding?
In how you design a.
Yes, and it's just I will say after 10 years, it's hard to continually come out with something that's simple because my style is very simple and elegant.
Yeah.
So that's when you have to start playing around with leathers and colors and different icons. You know, we've become known for our iconic boots, our heart boot, our lightning bolt boot. What's the next icon going to be? And it's just part of the challenge. But
so you and your mom are doing this. It's growing. People are liking it. You're like, this is really fun.
Yeah, we're doing Christmas markets.
And you're reinvesting everything.
Reinvesting everything.
You're
Yeah,
living
I
lean.
I had to start paying myself after 1 year.
Okay, so you didn't pay yourself for a year.
Did not pay myself for a
No
year.
way. That's
And then I
amazing.
paid myself very, very little for 5 years.
Okay.
And
5
honestly,
years.
like, yeah,
Can you say?
40,000.
You paid yourself you were living off of $40,000.
Mm-hmm.
No.
5 years.
way.
Mm-hmm.
That's freaking awesome.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I didn't care because I was so happy just doing my own thing. And that was an interesting life experience because, like I told you, when I was in college, I was chasing these like salary numbers, and I was just so much happier.
Yeah, I love that.
Mm-hmm.
I have extremely fond memories of being super poor in the early days of Green River Ordinance. Because I dropped out of college, and then my parents were like, "You're cut out if you do it."
Mm-hmm.
And we were all like living off of, I think it was like $1,100 a month. Was our like,
Yeah.
and it was like one of my fairest times in life.
Yes.
Because we just have to be so frugal, but we love what we're doing, and we're traveling.
When you love what you're doing, it's like it doesn't matter. And yes, I don't think you should just go do that without some type of vision for the future.
Yeah.
But
But
when you're doing something,
yeah,
you're learning. And that's what you asked what my parents told me. My dad said, like, what's the worst case? You can sell these boots for what you bought them for, and you will learn something along the way that will make you a more valuable asset if you need to go get another job. And I thought that was really wise. My dad's wise man.
I love it. And we're people like, so people are taking notice, and this is all.
I'll say what's interesting to me is I don't feel like it. There were people who were already cowboy boot lovers who were gravitating towards the product. And then I would say in the last 5 years, a real big turning point for me was being featured in the Wall Street Journal.
Okay, tell me about that.
So I do have a press team now, but up until 9 months ago, I didn't. And I just, by the grace of God, got a friend connected me with a journalist in Houston who wrote a story on me leaving the oil and gas company business to start Cowboy Boots. And the Wall Street Journal picked the story up, and they were doing a series called Reboot about people changing careers.
Okay.
And they called me up.
The title is perfect.
Yes, perfect. And they sent me an email, and I'll never forget being like, this is crazy. And they wanted to feature my story.
And did you sell a bunch of boots from that?
I did sell boots. We got a ton of traffic. I remember that day, I think we probably had like 20,000 hits on the website, which was just so much more than we'd ever experienced. And the reach of that publication is absolutely insane. I had like classmates from, years past reaching out. I got so many LinkedIn requests. I think I probably got like 200 LinkedIn requests that day. And started getting letters in the mail from prisoners.
What?
Which was probably the most funny part of it.
Women?
No, men.
Wait,
they were
why?
like leather workers.
Oh, really?
But like, yeah, that was pretty funny. The prison letters. Like sending boot designs.
No way.
Yeah.
So random.
And shooting their shot too. You're like, okay, no.
So that happens, and things are going well. At what point did you start like getting employees and getting help and like scaling it?
Okay, so we kind of skipped a big chapter there. So that was, I started City Boots for 4 or 5 years. It was kind of like not a side hobby, but more like a hobby business. I had gotten married during that time and we were really supporting my husband's career.
Is that what brought you to Fort Worth?
We actually lived in Tyler.
You lived in Tyler.
Mhm.
Okay.
He was from East Texas. So we had moved from Dallas to East Texas. It was a great career for me to have because I could make my own schedule, the flexibility.
And what was he doing?
He was in the oil and gas business.
Okay, oil and gas.
Yeah, we actually met at one of my jobs.
Okay.
And I mentioned this to you earlier, and a lot of people know this about my story, but my husband passed away 5 months into our marriage.
5 months.
5 months into our marriage,
Oh
suddenly, just to natural health causes that we were unaware of. And
so you just moved to Tyler.
I had just moved to Tyler like less than a year before.
So your world is just completely.
Yeah, like my dad, the way my dad put it was like you finally had like your jar of marbles full, and it just got dumped out, and that was, I mean.
What year was that?
That was 2019. He passed away in 2019.
Holy cow.
And so from there, I was now in a new situation where I was gonna have to go through this huge life transition, tragic grief experience, really is what it is. And and then in addition to that, I'm now in a position where I need to provide for myself. And that's when and I was also in a position where I wasn't able to function.
Yeah, I'm assuming when that happens, you're like, I don't want to work. I can't think about work. I can't be productive.
Yeah, so I simultaneously needed the company to work and had no capacity for it. And that's when I started hiring people. And that is when City Boots.
But even like if you're going from small team, no team to now, like hiring is so much work. And now you got to train, like the emotional bandwidth it takes to bring on and onboard and manage and train.
Yeah, and I had no leadership experience either. So that was fun.
So how'd you do that?
So my first hire was like a contractor who she was an expert in like email marketing and website optimization. And that I always tell people who have small businesses, and I'm sure you guys know this, and I'd be interested to hear actually your take on it, but I think email marketing was the first organized thing we did that made such a big difference in my business.
Because you have all these past buyers and you have their contact information.
Yeah, I've got the contact information. I had 5 years of organic purchasers, but I wasn't doing regular emails. And that was a big mistake. I should have been doing that from day one, really. But since then, but email, you guys, I'm sure.
It's a huge part. It's nurturing the relationship, communicating. And was there the return on the investment of that where you're like, okay, this.
Yeah, it gave the business more stability, revenue stability. Because when I wasn't able to go out and do trunk shows, we were still getting in front of the customer. And so it gave the business revenue stability. And that then in turn allowed me to take more risks and hire people, create new styles because there's now a channel for them. It was also I think prior to Will passing away, I was super socially driven. And then after he passed, that piece of me kind of went away for a while because it's really hard to relate and connect with your average 29-year-old peer, which is how old I was, when you're going through that.
Yeah.
And so I really kind of poured myself into the brand. And then.
So you kind of found an escape.
Yes.
In that.
Yeah.
And did you move? Were you staying in East Texas?
So I stayed in East Texas for, on my grief journey, I told myself, okay, you're going to focus on your grief for a year. Like, I knew I didn't want this to ruin my life. And I knew that if I didn't deal with it head on, that it would cause problems later. So
that's a very
I don't know how I knew that.
mature to even like have the bandwidth and forethought to.
I don't know how I knew that. I know. I don't know. I like look at myself during that period. I'm like, oh, I respect that person a lot. Anyway, so I kind of gave myself a year, which, come on, 1 year is not going to do it. But I told myself, just follow your heart for a year, which is, most people say don't do anything for a year, which I also see that too. But I think following my heart was what was right for me. And so I stayed in our house for several months, probably like 4 or 5 months. And one day I woke up and I did my grieving there where we lived together. And I woke up and I was like, okay, I'm done here. And so I picked up over the weekend and moved all my stuff, moved in with my parents.
Back to Amarillo.
Which was a life experience, but such a good landing pad. I'm really blessed to have their support through all that. And not just them, but my siblings and my friends as well. That's, I would say, like the number one reason why I'm standing today is that support. So if anyone knows anyone who's going through something tragic or anything hard, just reaching out and letting them know that you're thinking of them really carried me through and gave me so much. I have so much like love and faith in humanity now after going through that.
You had a lot of support is what
I did, and not everyone gets that. So it's just something I'm always aware of, and I'm sure, you guys see it every day, I'm sure, too. Or no, well, like Melissa.
Yeah. So you moved back in with your parents.
Moved back in with my parents, started doing city boots.
And you said
I decided to move to Fort Worth about a year and a half after he passed.
Why'd you decide that?
For the business. So for me, Fort Worth had always really embraced the brand. Okay. And I had the type of customer that I had in Fort Worth was the type of customer who wanted 3 pairs. Okay. Not just the 1 pair to like the token pair of cowboy boots. Fort Worth knows how to dress cowboy. And I loved that about the town. I loved the size of the city. I love the energy of the city. I love the rodeo. It called me. And so that
was part of that following your heart.
Yeah, it was really
listening to that voice.
And so I moved here and opened up a store in the local. Those women welcomed me in so graciously. And from opening the doors of a physical store, that's where we really started seeing more success as well.
The physical store helped.
It did help a lot. And I think in footwear, people just want to try it on. It also lifted our online sales, though. I think that what I found was anytime I did something that legitimized the business more, we've seen growth. So having an actual address, not just my personal cell phone on the website. And then the other piece would be the endorsement by publications such as the Wall Street Journal. And that was a really fun time for City Boots. Getting those initial endorsements.
Yeah. And so you're still going through grief. You're scaling with a team, moving across the state. You're opening a physical location. Like what like I'm assuming there's like some really high highs, some really low lows.
Yeah.
Like how were you dealing with all of that? Or sort of this following your heart was like, I'm pouring everything into this.
I've honestly was really just following my heart a lot of the way. And, I have to kind of step back because it's been overwhelming in general on a lot of levels, but in such a good way too. I love what I do. I love getting to work with my team. I love that every new day is a new challenge. That keeps me interested. Trying to think of some.
And so it kind of became legitimate with the store. Like this
I think, yeah.
kicked it up a notch, would you say?
Yeah, definitely kicked it up a notch. We then moved into opening up Dallas. We opened up Houston. We recently opened up Austin. That's been
so physical stores. Your
physical
business
stores
model changed a bit.
Business model changed. We saw with every location we saw, lift. So we then kind of wanted to see how far we could take that.
And are you still bootstrapping everything? Like, did you bring on other?
No, I still own 100% of the brand. And yeah, still growing within our own means, and that's what I'm comfortable with right now. It gives me a lot of freedom too.
Was there a point where you're like, this is like where you felt successful? Where you're like, this is a pivotal.
Yeah, I think when we hit different sales milestones, annual sales milestones, that's when I feel like, okay, like this is going well. And then when we don't hit them,
can you like
what can we do different?
What are some of those like I'm sure there are points to where it's like you have those moments of doubt of like, why am I doing this? This is so hard.
I think that was more in the first
mistakes.
few years.
More in the first few years.
Yeah. I mean, I've made lots of mistakes. Probably the most mistakes I have made have been on my leadership journey. I always say becoming a boss and leader is the hardest thing I've done besides like overcoming losing my husband. And at times maybe even harder because you're dealing with other people's lives. And you're finding your leadership style. I'm a very hands-off leader, which has its benefits and its not benefits for my team. But I try to focus on, now my focus is on what's the future of the brand. I'm less in the operations of things and more on the forward, like, thinking part of it, which is the part that I love.
Yeah. So I'm going to make some assumptions here. I had you take this personality assessment, culture index.
Okay.
Which I talk a lot about on the podcast. But your profile is very social and helpful and patient and nice.
Yes.
You have like one of the nicest profiles.
Oh, really?
Your default is like helpful. I'm assuming like you go in a room and you're very aware of how everyone else is feeling.
Yes.
And so my assumption is looking at your profile, I was like, oh my gosh, I bet it was really hard for her to like be mean as a boss. And
I still don't. Yeah.
Like, is that true? Like, was that a journey going?
Well,
learning how to hold.
I've had to compartmentalize. And that's hard for me to do. I don't have like lines, like I'm like, in the beginning it was very much like hanging out all the time, and it's just blurring the friendship line. And if you want to get to a certain level, you have to separate those things, or for me, I have to. And it's created a much better working environment for everyone on the team, I think. I'm still very young in my leadership journey. I hired my first employee probably 4 years ago. So I would not go to me for leadership advice.
But you've done. I mean,
I've done it. So
done it.
I've done it,
well.
and I'm proud of the progress I made, and I still have a long way to go.
Yeah.
But I do believe in.
And you've learned, and you're doing something right.
Yeah,
So
one thing I'm really working on in my leadership world right now is challenging my employees, which is good for them.
Yeah.
It's good for everyone, and pushing them to, expand themselves. And that's something that I had bosses do for me.
Yeah.
And I am so thankful for that. And that's something I always hope that my employees leave with, is some type of personal growth, both in their career skills, personal, and I give them hard projects that they've never done before, and I trust them to do them. And it doesn't always end up perfect, but they learn something along the way, and then we do better the next time.
Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
Have you, one of my favorite books about that type of stuff is Radical Candor.
No, I haven't read it.
By Kim Scott. I think that's who it's by.
But I know about the concept.
Yeah, it's essentially like we tend to default to, kind of has this pendulum of ruinous empathy, where we're just super nice and have a hard time challenging. And we want someone to like us, and so, or we default to, I can't remember the other one. It's basically like being a jerk, being like an
no, thank you.
And so Radical Candor is sort of this, how can we love and care about someone, empathize with them, but also challenge them directly, and that's this radical.
Yes, and
really
being direct.
Yeah.
I've actually, Ashley, she works with me, and she's been great. We balance each other out really well, and she's helped me become more direct, which I needed to as a leader.
She's very direct.
She is very direct and proud, and we love that about her.
I love that about her.
Yeah, and so we also have similar. Like the heart behind why we do what we do is similar, and we want good things for the team, and so we're aligned on the end goal, and then we really bounce each other out on in the hard stuff.
So having those sort of like yin and yang, integrator, visionary type of relationships has been a big part of it. It sounds like.
Yeah, I think so. And I've learned so much from one big thing that we've done in our company is the DISC profile. That has helped me so much with understanding the different working personalities. Do you guys do that?
I'm familiar with it.
Yeah, it's awesome. And we present, it's about time for us to regroup, and I make everyone read out their profile to everyone around, and we all laugh because we're like, oh yeah, that's you.
Yeah.
And it's very open, and it helps. It helps. Because you only know yourself, you can only know yourself until you start asking questions about other people.
Yeah. Self-awareness is really important. And then also having the curiosity to understand how other people operate, and what are their strengths. How do I?
Yes. Having I think that's really important. Having the curiosity to understand how other people operate. That is so important in being a leader.
Yeah.
Because the way I view my job as pushing this company forward, and the only way I can do that is by having great people that work in different ways and keeping everyone on the same path forward. Yeah. And that's a fun challenge.
Easier said than done. Can you talk to me a little bit about creativity?
Okay.
Because a big part of your job, I'm assuming, is also forward-thinking creativity. Meaning, you got to make a product that is different and innovative and people want, and it's beautiful. What does that process look like for you? How do you?
It's changed in the last year. It's changed a lot. I would say I touched on this earlier with the number of cowboy boots I have in my closet. That my original design philosophy was, I'm going to make something that is missing in my life that I could make use of. And
you were kind of designing for yourself.
Yes, and that served us well. Well, at this point, I'm like, how many different ways can you reimagine the same thing? And it's like the utility behind a new pair of cowboy boots for me personally has gone down. And so I am now switching into this creative mindset of, what is my customer missing? And that's been an interesting journey for me. Because I always want to make things that I'm going to wear, because what's the point if you don't believe in it? But challenging even my own style and evolving my own style. So that's kind of where I am now in the creative journey. Playing with color. I love color. My mom, bless her heart, she's just, everything's beige or black. And I have had so much fun making that kind of my thing.
And
although, look at me today. I mean, I'm in all black, but
color's a big part of y'all's brand.
It is a big part of our brand. And that part is just so fun for me. I love a fun, colorful cowboy boot. And there's so many fun colors out there. So we just keep.
But what on a practical kind of discipline level, are you like in your schedule? Is there like, I'm gonna sit down and be creative and draw, or is it like inspiration hits and I shut things down and I go into that?
I have to schedule it, otherwise my time gets eaten up.
So it's on your calendar.
Yeah, I have to schedule it.
Like,
I'm not good at scheduling it. Creative time.
It does. You literally put creative time on your calendar.
Yeah. But the only way to
that.
really get it is to go out of town.
Okay.
And I think that's part of being inspired too. This boot I'm wearing, I actually designed sitting by the pool in Rio de Janeiro at the Copacabana Palace on a trip with my girlfriends last January. And it's so different than anything that we've done. And I drew it on the iPad right there on the pool last January in Rio.
Isn't that so, like, there's something to, like, creativity there's an element where you got to show up. Like, you can't catch fish if you don't show up.
That's so true.
But the flip side of that is you also can't control inspiration. You can stack the odds to make happen by, like, traveling, seeing things.
Yeah.
But I remember, like, we were making an album in, like, 2012, and we were like, we're going to show up and write every day, and we were doing it in this really ugly, dark, dingy rehearsal space. And it was just god-awful. Like, the songs were awful. But, like, when you go to the mountains or the beach, it's like, so part
surroundings are such an important part of life in general. Even in my grief, I was constantly called to nature. I did a whole collection actually on the Big Bend. We did a Big Bend collection that was inspired by the desert colors, and that was during my time. I call it acute grief because grief never goes away, but my acute grief when I was spending time at Big Bend, and I do think as a creative, being around new surroundings, for me, that's what works. I love being in new places, and
so do you bake that into your schedule?
I should more. I think creativity too, it comes and goes. I mean, when you're dealing with things in your personal life or as a leader, it's sometimes hard to motivate creativity. And that's that's probably that's one of my bigger challenges right now. And then as we grow, it requires more newness. Innovation, constant innovation in order to, get to the next level. And so there will reach a point where I offload some of that details behind the creativity. But up to this day, I just do everything. I design everything by hand.
So walk me through like a day in your life.
Oh my God, every day is so different. I don't know how it is for you, but every day is so different for me. Let's see. I live over by TCU. I'm not a big, I need to work out more. I'm not, I like to walk, so I'll go on walks. I try to take my meetings on Mondays and Tuesdays.
Stacking meetings.
I stack my meetings, and then more like free form time Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. I try to get together with, make 1 or 2 in-person connections per week. We have our weekly calls, and then I have my exploratory calls that I'm trying to figure out what the next step is. And so I kind of I take a lot of Zoom calls right now. But I try to keep that to 2 days because your brain cannot.
It's hard to shift into deep work if it's interrupted by meetings.
Right. And I also have to schedule time for my team to make sure they're getting answers from me.
And are you going to stores much? Are you going to manufacturers much?
I'm more on the manufacturing and marketing side than the like the store side.
So are you going and like checking in on production and?
Yeah. I'll go. I've been going to Mexico like almost like twice a month right now.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So
and it just helps. Like being down there just helps.
It does. Making sure it's right.
Yeah.
So two observations or guesses, or I would love to have you expand upon it. Is one, have you read Shoe Dog?
Yes. So good.
The Nike Phil Knight
it's
story.
So good.
It was like the hardest thing about everything they were doing is like this manufacturing making, coupled with buying inventory is so expensive. It requires so much cash, and you take all this money, you order a product, but that product doesn't come in until X amount of months later. So now your money's gone, but you're not making new money, and then what you do is so cash heavy. It's coming in, it's coming out. You got to order stuff, and then you order the stuff, and it doesn't make you money until you sell it. Like, can you walk me through some of those?
Yeah, that's a big challenge that we deal with. And then as you grow, those purchases become bigger.
Yeah.
So the risk becomes bigger. And then
if they get delayed,
and now we're in the fashion business. So if you're, you
miss rodeo season,
what are you going to do? And that happens all the time. So, and in footwear, you're dealing with a lot of sizes. And I know they dealt with this in Shoe Dog. The inventory requirements of being in the shoe business are crazy. And so I recently hired a buyer to help me with that process because I was making all the orders. I mean, come on, I can't do that. So that has really streamlined the business. Her job is to look at what we sold last year
and help make educated guesses.
Make educated buys and to do it on time because that was always a thing. I was like chasing my tail, like, Lizzy, we got to get this order in, and then you get the order in a week late, and then now the boots are late. And in fashion, the timing of launches is super important.
And you got to market it in
seasons, and then we're doing photo shoots. And
so you're already working on like spring or summer.
Yeah, we've got spring established. Summer, we're finishing up right now. We're behind too. So my hope is that by this time next year, I'll have fall 2026 ready to go. So that's kind of what I'm trying to get to that point.
Interesting.
It's fun.
And then you're still totally direct to consumer. Do you wholesale?
We have some wholesale customers. Okay, so we've been in Love Shack Fancy across several of their stores across the nation for the last 4 or 5 years, as well as Anthropologie just picked us up this fall, which was so cool.
I think I maybe knew that.
Yeah.
Is that done well?
Yeah. The first buy went well. Well, hopefully they'll come back. And
that's cool.
We also are in St. Bernard Sports.
Okay.
This last year, so that's an interesting.
Are you going to do more of that kind of wholesale?
The wholesale For me, the wholesale is more of an awareness play.
Brand
There's not a
awareness.
lot of margin in it. We are making a handmade product, so sacrificing that production for wholesale margin is a tough decision when our customers need it too.
Yeah.
But I do think there's something to having that daily exposure to the retail, like a proper retail experience. Yeah.
And are you going to do more stores or?
Right now I'm good.
You're good.
Yeah, right now I'm good. I think you hit like kind of a critical mass, and I think we're there right now. I'd love to right now we're really showroom based, so it's not a traditional retail experience. And I'd love to get the brand to that, to where we could put a store in a mall or wherever.
Is that a goal?
I'd love to do that. I think I see a lot of value in that method.
I'm assuming there's now more competition than there was.
Yes.
And I also assume now you're kind of on people's crosshairs. Like you were probably weren't a threat in the beginning.
Yeah, that is an interesting.
And now people have probably seen your success.
Yeah, that is
some
an
of the big
interesting.
guys trying to mimic it. You probably get.
Yeah, definitely.
What it is.
Yeah, that's been interesting. The last couple of years, when we started, there were no companies targeting women in this price point, in this niche, and I have had to learn in the last 2 years that when you start doing something that has success, it's a business principle that others will enter the market. And, there's been great brands that have come on the market that are doing their own thing. And then we've had others that feels like mimicking, but it's just part of it. I mean, like, no, the way I view it is I really try not to see what other people are doing. And I know that nobody can be as me as me.
So
double down on me. And it's also good for business, honestly. I think it used to be this world where you would have one pair of cowboy boots in your closet. That's not the case anymore. I mean, so many customers who have 2 of my pairs, 2 of my competitors' pairs, 2 of, a non-competitor's pairs. And they're building a collection just like I was doing before I started City Boots. And they want us to be a part of their collection.
Yeah.
And I think that's cowboy,
okay too.
The way
You're saying that's okay too.
Yeah, I think it lifts. I think even like Tecovas, for example, they're selling like a more entry level price point boot that's still a good boot. And those customers, when they see how much they love wearing a cowboy boot, they're going to be willing to invest more the next time they go and buy. And we offer just something that's a little more unique, and a little more niche, and there's room for everyone in that world as long as we keep doing something that's unique to us.
Keep pushing it forward and innovating and growing it. Can you talk a little bit about just your approach to marketing and storytelling and what has worked, what hasn't worked, a huge part?
I want to talk to you about this so bad because I am not a natural marketing person. I'm really learning about this concept of storytelling, and I have some really good people on my team who do understand it, and I just trust them. I do not view myself as a strong marketing leader.
You've done something right, though.
But I'm able to learn. And I will say that's something that I think has, not to just talk about me, but
well, that's what we're here for.
Yeah, I guess I'm willing to dig in and learn and talk to experts and read books and
tell me what has worked and maybe what hasn't worked. And
so it's just changed a lot. So when I first started, when we first started doing paid marketing, probably 5 years ago.
Meaning
Digital ads. That was also, so we did the email marketing and we started with digital ads. That really drove sales, and it still does to this day, and it's something that I believe in. But the cost of the ads has
gone up and up.
There's just so much competition now. When we started, the cowboy boot business was so old school. They weren't caught up with this digital marketing trend, and that's why we were able to sneak in. And we purely digital marketing for, I mean, still to this day, really. I don't do print. I do consider it, but so digital marketing works.
And are you spending much on affiliate influencer partnerships?
We are dipping our toe into that. So we have started with this year with like a kind of a trade program. We're lucky that we have a product that influencers are excited to receive, and we gift, just hoping they'll share. We don't normally get like a contract or anything like that, but that's been an interesting initiative. I think it's a great way to, if you have it on a cycle and have it as a part of the machine, to always be bringing new eyes to the brand. And that's a big part of where we are as a brand right now, is how do we get new eyeballs on the brand in a meaningful way that's worth the effort, because you're going to work just as hard to gift a pair of boots to, well, that's probably not a good example, but the effort that it takes to create a campaign is the same. Like the photo shoot, for example, you can do photo shoots at all different levels. We've pretty much stayed the same level of photo shoot this whole time. We're just figuring out how to maximize that exposure. And it's a combination of everything working all together, and we have not figured it out yet, but I'm working on it.
Okay. And what about your personal brand? Like how much are...
That's a new thing for me.
But you as the face and your story and your
Yeah,
style.
I was always really hesitant to put myself in front. I think that came from a place of wanting, again, to create an asset that had value apart from me. But I'm motivated to do what is best for the brand at all times. And I do see being out there and doing things like this, or even just my personal Instagram, has helped the brand a lot. And so that's my job, to help the brand like become all that it can be. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
I told you today, I was like, I wear my CEO outfit.
Yeah, I love it. All black. All black. But I think that's a big part of it. I would argue you are a big part of it. Your face, your story, your style, who you are, your relation. And a lot of times as founders, you're like, I don't want it to be about me. That feels so narcissistic.
Yeah, I don't want it to be about me. But I can make it about the brand.
Yeah, and your and what I'm doing and what I'm excited about, what I'm learning. And, I would argue that's a piece of your success. And so I would encourage you to keep doing that.
Okay, thank you. What else? What else are we doing right, and what are we doing wrong? That's what I want to know. We can talk about it later.
We can. Yeah, I can die. I think you're doing a lot right. I also think y'all are generous as a company. I feel like you're in a lot of stuff. I feel like you've doubled down on Fort Worth. Granted, I know you're in also other places. But yeah, I think it's also fun. I feel like there's a fun and there's an attitude piece of your brand that's interesting and a differentiator from other
Thank
folks.
you for saying that, because I always want to be fun. And I think cowboy boots are fun. Obviously they started out as a working thing, but for us, And the way our customers wear boots, they're wearing their boots when they're going to have fun.
Yeah, and it's not too high fashion,
Yeah.
frou-frou, you know.
Yeah, I want something that feels authentic and
Yeah.
not, something that feels authentic and can be dressed up or down to fit within our customers' lives.
Do you have any fun, like, City Boots stories specifically around, like, I saw someone wearing my boots or someone bought my boots or someone wore my boots?
Okay,
like,
yes, we do. So we did a trunk show in the Hamptons last summer.
Uh-huh.
We've had a lot of, like, celebrities really like our boots, and it's really, really special every single time. Excuse me. So when we were in the Hamptons, one of my girls was walking by and had her boots on, and Brooke Shields said to her, like, where did you get your boots? She, like, had to know. And then I had a friend who was at Bimmelman's Bar in New York City, and she had her lightning boots on. And I guess Reese Witherspoon leaned over to her and was like, I have to know where you got those boots.
Really?
So that's fun when they go out of their way to appreciate it. Yeah.
Like, I will send you a pair of Reese Witherspoon.
Yeah.
Give me your address.
Yeah. And then we love, like, there's some, Meg Maroney is a big one. She wears our boots all the time. She wore our boots on her album cover. That was really cool. Casey Musgrave recently wore the boots. Emma Roberts.
Oh, yeah.
That was a big one, especially because she's not in the country space. That was a cool one.
That's awesome.
There's like, at this point, there's a lot. We work with stylists, and so we're on their radar now, which is so fun to get the call.
Stuff?
Yeah, we send stuff all the time.
That's
and
cool.
It's a lot of work, but it does give you more exposure, and it's worth it.
Exposure and authority.
Yeah, but I love whenever it doesn't go through the stylist, like Brooke Shields or Reese Witherspoon. Like, that's fun.
That's awesome. I love it. Can you talk? You've talked about it some, and I have some observations. But can you talk about, like, just what you do to stay grounded, to stay healthy? I mean, you've been your grief journey. You were talking about just you've been through a lot. You've shown a lot of resilience. You seem very grounded.
Oh, thank you.
Observationally, what are, like, the practices or things that you do or have done or mental states that you cultivate to do that?
That's a great question. I love that you asked that, because a lot of people don't ask that, but it is something that you have to be so intentional about, especially when you're busy, and we all are. And I think my faith is a big thing. I really try to prioritize going to my Bible study. I did a horrible job this fall, but I'll be back in the spring, no matter what's going on with the brand and my demands, because it's something that I can do that doesn't have to do with the brand. And even in my personal life, so much the brand takes over my life in a lot of ways. And so staying connected to my faith is really important to me. I find grounding in being in nature, and connecting with my friends and family. I love a good meal, going to good dinner with someone and just hearing about their lives, and just being around children too. I love being around, like, my friends' children, and that really grounds me in a weird way. I'm sure maybe you probably get that experience with your own children, but
sometimes it grounds me, sometimes it, like, makes
me when they're not yours, it's like, oh my God, kids are the best. So that's where I am right now. I like to read, in and out, and
one of my observations.
Yeah, tell me.
You can tell me if this is true or not. Is I think there's power when you name and vocalize things. Like, Brene Brown had I forget what his book is. But the book is basically like, the more language you have for emotions and how you're feeling, and if you can articulate it, it helps you manage and deal with those.
Yes.
And you have used a lot of, like, this is my grief journey, this is my leadership journey, this is my you're articulating out loud that you're going through something, learning through something, trying through something, and also setting a vision for it.
Mm-hmm.
I would assume probably is like a superpower of yours because
Oh, that's very sweet.
I don't know if that's true or not, or a part
Yeah.
of like it seems
I'm
like
very much a verbal processor,
Yeah.
and I like to understand. I'm in touch with my emotions.
Yeah.
Very.
But if you're stuffing grief down,
Which I do.
and you're not talking about it, naming it,
Yeah.
you know, if you're stuffing struggles down and out, I think there's power in articulating it. And I have heard you just in this conversation articulate a lot of that in pretty like eloquent, thoughtful ways.
So I had a lot of therapy.
Okay, so maybe that's a part of it.
It is. If you're going through something that is unexpected and different than your peers, you've got to get some context. And therapy can be a great way to do that.
And even so much of that is you're saying it out loud.
Mm-hmm.
So anyways, that was my observation of you.
Thank
You
you.
seem good at at articulating the thing that you're learning, going through, experiencing.
Oh, well, thank you.
I think that gives it
that's a compliment.
gives you some
Thank you.
power in that. So
Cool. Thank you.
little observation. Are there any books, resources, podcasts, or things that were like really instrumental or pivotal in your career journey?
So yes, I've read. Let me think about there's a book that every business person knows called Good to Great. I think it's a great way to understand when you want to build something that's not just good. Like the title says it all, and that's always been my goal. And it gives you permission. For me, it gave me permission to take steps I wouldn't normally take with my demeanor. The one aspect of that book about putting people in the right seat on the bus is such a big one. And then visualizing is it like a snowball or a hamster wheel that they talk about in that book? Have you read it?
Yeah, it's been a while. Is it the flywheel?
The flywheel.
Flywheel.
That is in my head every single day. I'm like, what are we doing to create momentum?
Yeah.
And
get it going and then it keeps going.
Yeah, and it makes a lot of sense. I recently read, so I listened to Lauren Bostic's podcast.
She's so good.
Yeah, they're great. Him and her, or his and her.
Yeah.
I like listening to them. God started listening to her for like the health. They're very health involved, and I'm like trying to get back into that phase of my life. But she has a lot of books that she recommends, and I bought a lot of her books, and one of them was, I think it's called E-commerce Evolved. And I'll send it to you. It's not like a famous book or anything, but it's one that I opened it up recently, and I looked up, and 3 hours later I had like read almost the whole book in one sitting. It was feeding what I needed at the time. That's unusual for me to do that focus. And it talks a lot about e-commerce and what that business is like. And I learned a lot.
That's cool.
And
yeah, I'd be curious what that is.
Yeah. And then I'm reading a book, Tosh, what's her name? The book is called Obsessively Obsessed. Okay. And she started this swimwear line called Monday Swimwear. And she now has and I learned about her through Lauren Bostic. I think she just talks to interesting people, who have a lot of success. And so then I like to go see what they're doing. And so I'm reading her book. She talks a lot about storytelling and marketing. And she has like a $50 million swimwear line. Yeah. Crazy. Yeah. And I'm like, what are you doing? Yeah. Tell me more. I haven't finished through that yet, but it's a storytelling. It's be interesting to see what your thought on that too.
I'll check it out.
I'll send it to you.
I love it. And then, okay, kind of final big question is, what advice would you go back and give your younger self? Or if you could give any advice to someone who's, there's you, younger self, but also like someone who wants to start a clothing, footwear.
Yeah, those would be just totally different conversations.
Okay. Well, give me your thoughts on either of those.
I mean, it's kind of cheesy, but my advice to myself would be like, listen to your heart. I don't know why that's hard to do sometimes, but I think anytime I've listened to my heart, I've been really glad I did.
Yeah.
Anytime I haven't, I've regretted it. The advice that I would give myself is like continue to take risks. And that's what I would give that advice to other people. Be willing to take measured risk. I'm not one of those people who's like, quit your job and go start, something that's not proven. I took a lot of measured risks in my journey, and I think that served me well. I saved money. I gave myself a year's runway. I thought it through really well and invested everything back into the business. Yeah. So that'd be my advice is take risks, but make sure it's measured.
Love it. Those are good.
Yeah.
Those are both really good. Favorite pair of boots of all your boots?
Oh gosh, I like change.
Yeah.
I like
whatever the newest boot is.
Yeah. I love the new boot we just came out with. But I have to say I love my original design, which was a red, simple 15-inch, just good old red cowboy boot. It's still in the line today. It was our first boot.
Is that your most worn pair of yours?
I've gone through 2 or 3 pairs. Yeah,
okay.
I have like my dressy pair now and my casual pair. Yeah.
Yeah.
The red is called the Georgia. Red boots are just awesome. I love red.
Making a statement.
Yeah, it's like an easy statement. It looks good on blondes and brunettes, and it's like easy to pair with a t-shirt. Not to leave out the redheads. I think redheads can wear the red boots too.
I think I can wear some red boots.
Yeah, you can wear some red boots. But yeah.
And then what legacy? What does that word mean to you when you think about your legacy of all that you're doing and what you want it to be?
I'm sorry, I can't stop thinking about. Did you see the Mike Tyson interview where he got asked that question? Oh my God, it's honestly horrible, but it did make me laugh. He's like a child is interviewing him, and she asked him about legacy, and he was like, "I don't believe anything in legacy." Like he's like just, and he goes on and on and on, and she's just like, "Well, thank you for sharing that." Like, you need to look it up. It's so funny. But it's also in a way sad because, like, he's saying he doesn't believe in this idea of legacy, which I can understand to some point. But I think if I have any legacy, I want it to be that I was good to people and that I said yes to things in life, and that's what I would want. Had fun along the way.
Have fun along the way.
Yeah.
Well, Lizzy, thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks
you. Thanks for unpacking your story and sharing all this.
We went way in. I love it.
We did. I loved it. Good stuff.
Yeah,
thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
Congratulations, you made it to the end. Appreciate you listening. If you enjoy what you heard, if you enjoy these episodes, please subscribe and like and share wherever you listen to podcasts. When you do that, it goes a long way and helps us continue to produce great new content. This episode is brought to you by 6Av Storytelling, where we help businesses grow their brands through the power of storytelling. If you're an entrepreneur who is interested in learning more about that, please visit 6avstorytelling.com today.